Elena Castillo was sipping her coffee and reading her romance novel when three-armed terrorists burst into the cafe. While everyone else screamed in terror, Elena calmly closed her book and began assessing the tactical situation with the cold precision of an Army Ranger. Welcome to Hidden Story, where we uncover the extraordinary lives hiding in plain sight. Before we dive into this incredible story of off-duty heroism and split-second decision-making, tell us in the comments, have you ever stayed calm during a crisis when everyone else was panicking? And if you believe stories like these deserve to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us ensure they're never forgotten. Major Elena Phoenix Castillo had been looking forward to this Tuesday morning for 3 months. Her first real day off since deployment, no briefings, no training exercises, no tactical operations. Just coffee, her favorite corner booth at Sunrise Cafe in downtown Denver, and the romance novel she'd been trying to finish for weeks. At 29, Elena had spent 7 years with the 75th Ranger Regiment, specializing in close-quarters combat and urban warfare. Her call sign Phoenix came from her ability to turn impossible tactical situations into victories. But today, dressed in jeans and a simple gray sweater, she looked like any other customer enjoying a quiet morning. The cafe was busy with the usual Tuesday crowd. Business people grabbing coffee before work, students typing on laptops, elderly couples sharing newspapers. Elena had deliberately chosen the corner booth with sightlines to all entrances and exits. Old habits from someone who'd spent too many years in hostile environments. She was halfway through chapter 12 when the front door exploded inward. 3 men in black tactical gear burst through the entrance, faces covered by balaclavas, carrying assault rifles with the confidence of people who'd done this before. They moved with military precision, immediately establishing overlapping fields of fire that covered every customer in the cafe. "Everyone on the ground! Hands where we can see them!" The lead terrorist's voice carried a slight accent, but his tactical movement suggested professional training. The reaction was immediate chaos. 24 customers and 4 employees dropped to the floor in various states of panic. Some were crying, others praying, several calling out for help that wouldn't arrive in time. The normal Tuesday morning coffee crowd had suddenly found themselves in what appeared to be a coordinated terrorist attack. Elena remained seated, her coffee cup halfway to her lips, watching the situation develop with the calm assessment of someone who'd faced similar threats in combat zones across 3 continents. The lead terrorist noticed her immediately. "Lady." "You deaf?" I said. "Get on the ground." Elena set down her coffee cup with deliberate care, as if she had all the time in the world. "I heard you. I was just wondering what you gentlemen hope to accomplish here. This seems like a lot of effort for a coffee shop." Her voice carried the kind of casual confidence that made the terrorist pause. This wasn't the response he'd expected from a terrified civilian. "You think this is funny?" He stepped closer, his weapon now pointed directly at her. "You think we're playing games?" "Not at all." Elena closed her book, keeping her movements slow and non-threatening. "I think you're about to learn why it's important to know who's in the room before you decide to take it over." What the terrorists didn't realize was that Elena was conducting her own tactical assessment while projecting calm civilian behavior. She was cataloging their weapons, AK-74 variants, probably military surplus. Their positioning showed training, but lacked the discipline of elite units. The lead terrorist was within arm's reach, his weapon positioned where she could control it. The second had moved to cover the kitchen area but abandoned proper overwatch. The third was still by the entrance, but his attention was divided between the hostages and this strange woman who seemed completely unafraid. "You got something to say, lady?" The lead terrorist leaned closer, his confidence growing. "You think you're tough?" Elena slowly reached into her purse, the movement so casual that none of the terrorists recognized it as tactical preparation. I think you should have done better reconnaissance before choosing your target. Her hand emerged holding a Sig Sauer P320, and in the same fluid motion, she grabbed the barrel of the terrorist's rifle, redirected it away from her body, and put 2 round center mass into his chest. The engagement happened with mechanical precision. Elena had practiced similar scenarios thousands of times in training facilities across the world, but this was the first time she had executed the techniques while sitting in a coffee shop reading a romance novel. The lead terrorist dropped instantly. Before his body hit the floor, Elena was moving. The second terrorist was turning toward the sound of gunfire when Elena's third and fourth rounds found their target. He managed to raise his weapon halfway before collapsing behind the counter. The third terrorist had the best position and the most time to react, but he made the critical error of hesitating. Instead of immediately engaging Elena, he spent precious seconds trying to process what he was witnessing. By the time he brought his rifle to bear, Elena had moved from her seated position to combat stance behind the overturned table. Her fifth and sixth rounds ended the engagement before he could fire a shot. Total elapsed time from first shot to neutralization of all threats, 3.7 seconds. The cafe fell into stunned silence. 24 hostages and 4 employees stared in amazement at the woman who'd been quietly reading a romance novel 30 seconds earlier, now standing over 3 neutralized terrorists with her weapons still trained on the threat area. "Is everyone okay?" Elena called out, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone used to taking charge in crisis situations. "Anyone injured?" The silence stretched for several seconds before Marcus Chen, the cafe owner, slowly raised his head from behind the counter. "Elena, what just happened? Who are you?" Elena quickly conducted a tactical sweep to ensure no additional threats were present, then secured her weapon and pulled out her military identification. "Major Elena Castillo, 75th Ranger Regiment. I apologize that your cafe got caught up in what appears to be a terrorist incident, but everyone is safe now." The reaction was immediate. Some customers were crying with relief, others staring in disbelief at the woman who'd just eliminated 3 armed terrorists with the casual efficiency of someone solving a crossword puzzle. "You're a soldier?" asked Jennifer Walsh, a nurse who'd been studying for her boards when the attack began. "Yes, I'm on leave this week. Just wanted to finish my book and enjoy Marcus's excellent coffee," Elena replied, glancing down at her novel, which now had bullet holes through chapters 12 and 13. Within minutes, the cafe was surrounded by police cars, SWAT teams, FBI agents, and news vans. The initial responders approached expecting to find an active hostage situation. Instead, they discovered 3 dead terrorists and 28 civilians eager to explain how the quiet woman in the corner booth had prevented what could have been a massacre. "Major Castillo," said FBI Special Agent David Morrison, who'd arrived to take control of the scene. "We need to understand exactly what happened here." Elena was back in her corner booth, having ordered fresh coffee from Marcus, who was insisting he would never charge the woman who'd saved everyone's life. "Agent Morrison, 3 armed individuals entered this establishment with apparent intent to take hostages. They made verbal threats against civilians and pointed weapons at innocent people. When they continued to pose an immediate threat to civilian lives, I neutralized the threat using appropriate force." Agent Morrison surveyed the scene. 3 dead terrorists, no injured civilians, minimal property damage except for a damaged romance novel, and shook his head in amazement. "Major, intelligence suggests this cell has been planning attacks on soft targets for months. You just prevented what could have been dozens of casualties." "Agent Morrison, I was trying to finish my coffee and read my book. These individuals interrupted that, and I responded accordingly." The investigation revealed the full scope of what Elena had unknowingly prevented. The terrorist cell was part of a larger network planning simultaneous attacks on multiple civilian targets throughout Denver. The 3 men she'd neutralized were carrying enough additional ammunition and explosives in their vehicle to conduct a prolonged siege that would have resulted in massive casualties. Intelligence recovered from their safe houses indicated that Sunrise Cafe was intended to be the first target in a coordinated attack designed to demonstrate that no American civilian location was safe. Instead, their entire operation had been neutralized by an off-duty soldier who just wanted to drink coffee and read romance novels. The media response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, news outlets were running stories about the cafe warrior who'd single-handedly stopped a terrorist attack. Security camera footage showed Elena's impossibly calm demeanor before, during, and after the engagement. Major Castillo, said ABC reporter Sarah Chen during a live broadcast from outside the cafe. Military analysts are calling your response the most efficient neutralization of a terrorist threat by a single operator in recent memory. How did you remain so calm? Elena, still in her civilian clothes and looking more like a graduate student than a special forces operator, shrugged slightly. I've had good training, and I've been in similar situations before. The important thing is that no innocent people were hurt. But you were outnumbered 3-1. They had automatic weapons, and you were sitting in a corner with no tactical advantage. Weren't you afraid? Fear is a normal human response to danger, but training teaches you to function effectively regardless of emotional state. My responsibility was to protect the civilians in that cafe, and that's what I did. The Pentagon's response was comprehensive. Elena received commendations from her chain of command, recognition from the Secretary of Defense, and a personal call from the President thanking her for her service and heroism. But perhaps more importantly, she became a symbol of American military readiness, proof that even off-duty personnel remained vigilant and capable of responding to threats against civilian populations. Major Castillo represents everything exceptional about our Army Rangers, said General Michael Hayes during a Pentagon briefing. Her actions demonstrate that the training and mindset we develop in our special operations personnel makes them effective guardians of American security, whether they're on duty or enjoying their day off. The terrorist organization behind the planned attacks released a statement acknowledging that their urban terrorism strategy had a fundamental flaw. They couldn't predict when they might encounter off-duty military personnel capable of neutralizing entire terrorist cells. 6 months after the cafe incident, Elena was promoted to lieutenant colonel and assigned to develop new training programs for domestic counterterrorism scenarios. Her techniques for rapid threat assessment and civilian protection became standard curriculum for special operations personnel transitioning to stateside assignments. The thing about Colonel Castillo, explained her commanding officer, Colonel James Mitchell, is that she doesn't separate her military identity from her civilian identity. Whether she's in uniform or jeans, she's always ready to protect American citizens. That's what makes her truly exceptional. Sunrise Cafe became something of a landmark after the incident. Marcus Chen framed newspaper articles about Elena's heroics and displayed them near the corner booth where everything had happened. He also instituted a policy that any active duty or veteran military personnel received free coffee for life. Elena saved everyone's life, Marcus would tell visitors who came to see the famous location. She was just sitting there reading her romance novel, drinking coffee like any normal customer. Then, these terrible people came in with guns, and she became something else entirely, like a guardian angel. The romance novel that had been damaged by gunfire was auctioned for charity, raising $75,000 for military family support organizations. The winning bidder was a retired Marine general who said he wanted to own the book that America's most dangerous woman was reading during her coffee break. Elena's story became required study at military academies, not just for the tactical lessons it provided, but for what it demonstrated about the mindset of elite military personnel. Students learned that readiness wasn't something you activated based on official duty status. It was a way of thinking that prepared you to protect others, regardless of circumstances. Anyone can learn marksmanship and tactical movement, Elena would tell new Ranger candidates during training sessions. The military teaches those skills effectively, but what makes someone truly capable is the mindset that recognizes your responsibility to protect innocent people, extends beyond your scheduled duty hours. Students always wanted details about the cafe engagement, about the decision-making process that led her to engage 3 armed terrorists while surrounded by civilians. Elena would share the tactical analysis, but always concluded with the same principle. I didn't engage those terrorists because I was the most qualified person in the cafe. I engaged them because they posed an immediate threat to innocent people, and I had the capability to neutralize that threat. When you have the ability to protect others, you have the responsibility to do so. Years later, when security analysts studied the evolution of domestic counterterrorism in the 21st century, they identified several incidents that shaped military training and public policy. The Sunrise Cafe engagement was remembered as proof that individual preparedness could overcome coordinated terrorist attacks when combined with proper training and absolute commitment to protecting civilians. But among the customers who were there that Tuesday morning, the lesson was simpler. Sometimes the person sitting quietly in the corner, reading a book and minding their own business, is exactly the person you want around when everything goes wrong. The security footage became a training tool used by law enforcement and military personnel worldwide, demonstrating perfect execution of close-quarters combat in a civilian environment with zero collateral damage. Tactical instructors would pause the video at the moment Elena first reached into her purse, showing students how her casual movement gave no indication of the lethal precision about to unfold. Watch her body language, instructors would tell classes. She's completely relaxed, non-threatening, almost conversational. The terrorists have no idea they're talking to someone who can neutralize all 3 of them in under 4 seconds. That's what perfect tactical deception looks like. 5 years after the cafe incident, Elena was promoted to colonel and assigned to lead the Army's domestic counterterrorism training division. Her programs became the standard for preparing military personnel to respond to terrorist threats in civilian environments. The corner booth at Sunrise Cafe where everything happened became an unofficial memorial with a small plaque reading, "In appreciation of Colonel Elena Castillo and all service members who remain vigilant even during their time off." Marcus made sure there were always fresh flowers on the table, and he would often tell visitors about the quiet young woman who'd saved everyone's life while trying to enjoy her coffee and finish a romance novel. She was reading about love and adventure, Marcus would say with a smile. One minute she's reading about fictional heroes, the next minute she becomes a real one. That's the kind of person America produces, someone who can be both gentle and fierce, depending on what the situation requires. The romance novel was eventually republished with a special edition foreword, written by Elena about the importance of finding peaceful moments while remaining ready to protect others. All proceeds supported military family organizations. The ability to enjoy simple pleasures, a good book, excellent coffee, quiet conversation, is what we're defending when we serve our country, Elena wrote. Those moments of peace are precious because they represent the freedom and safety that every American deserves to experience. The terrorist network that had planned the coordinated attacks was completely dismantled within weeks of the cafe incident. Intelligence recovered from their operations led to arrests in multiple cities and prevented what could have been devastating attacks on civilian targets. Colonel Castillo didn't just save the lives of people in that cafe, explained FBI Director Patricia Walsh during congressional testimony on domestic terrorism. Her actions disrupted an entire terrorist network and prevented attacks that could have killed hundreds of Americans. But to Elena, the most important result was much simpler. 24 customers and 4 employees went home safely to their families that night, and Sunrise Cafe continued serving excellent coffee to people who just wanted to start their day in peace. When the lead terrorist had asked that morning, "You think you're tough?" Elena had replied, "I think you should have done better reconnaissance." What she meant was that they'd made the mistake of threatening innocent Americans in the presence of someone who dedicated her life to preventing exactly that kind of violence. They had encountered an American warrior who understood that protecting others wasn't just a job. It was a calling that never went off duty. The quiet woman reading a romance novel in the corner booth had turned out to be exactly what terrorists feared most: an American soldier who was always ready, always watching, and absolutely committed to ensuring that innocent people could enjoy their morning coffee in peace. If this story moved you, please hit that subscribe button and share it with others. Help us ensure these tales of quiet courage and hidden heroism reach the people who need to hear them. Thank you for watching Hidden Story. We'll see you in the next story where another hero waits to be recognized.